This is it, Winter War. I've gone through the instructions once. I haven't quite decided yet. I might do this, the optional rule, the scenario special events. I know Callendale did it as well. So that's the only reason why I might not, and I might just stick with this Murmansk Defense. Because it says do not use this rule when employing the optional scenario special events rule. So maybe I go with this one since Callendale has covered this. Maybe I'll do the Murmansk Defense, which is to provide defense against a possible Anglo-French amphibious attack. The Soviet player must keep at least 7 combat units, not including headquarters, within a 5 hex radius of Murmansk for the duration of the game after the conclusion of game turn 3. This condition must be met. The Soviet players lose a significant amount of victory points for each Soviet player turn in which this condition is not fulfilled. And we'll look at the board here. Sorry about that sun glare light. There's Murmansk right there. So 7 units, hey? At least 7 units. 7 combat units. Yeah, why not? Let's go for that. Let's give it a shot. Just kind of show you along here. Here's our reinforcements all laid out, and they come in at various game turns, all the way up to game turn 10 where you get some. Here's our initial forces, our stacks of initial forces. These 2012 twos have already been placed on the board because it's very specific. They have to be within 3 hexes of Leningrad, and they cannot move north of this line here, which is the A. There's our little there's our directional. I have it set up this way just because I'm going to be hopping back and forth. It'll be a little easier. Even though I guess realistically we're kind of looking at the map this way. So that line is important for a couple of reasons. All these units that are dispersed already can never travel north of that line. And this one is right on the edge, is he? Yeah. Right on the edge, I believe. These units here, they're upside down. They're 6.62s. Maybe I can turn them right side out. It probably doesn't matter at this point. My thought was to employ a similar strategy that Callendale did as well. On the Finnish initial forces, we have our stacks. There's some blank ones there as well. I was thinking of turning them all upside down and kind of mixing them up, shuffling them around, and then distributing them along the map at various points. That way it's a little bit more of a surprise as to what's there. But I suppose since there's no other place that these can go, they have to land on these. These are called the Fortification Hexes, and they double the defense of the Finnish units that are there. Only when they're on those particular hexes though. It doesn't extend, like it doesn't have like a zone of control like kind of the individual units do. So I'll probably start with those right side up. Anyway, what else can I tell you about this right now? I think those are the only 2 major deployment rules. There is another one here for the Soviets. No Soviet unit may be deployed in such a way that it would begin the game in an isolated state. See supply and isolation rules. So it has to be within supply of a particular town, and then also with your headquarters units which are these ones here with that little flag. Sorry, there's focus is in there somewhere. Those 0, 1, 2 units are your headquarters. So they have to be in supply of the headquarters, and in turn, headquarters have to be in supply of a city here. Now, I'll have to double check. I believe it's the number that is circled. That's how much attack points this particular city will supply. So Murmansk has 15. So it will only supply 15, I believe. I will double check that, but I'm pretty sure that's the way that it is. So if you had units around there that were drawing supply for this one, and the total attack strength of those units equaled, say, 20, 5 of those points would be considered isolated, which then decreases your movement and decreases your attack as well too, I believe. I think you can only move 1 hex no matter what your unit says. And like I said, I believe it's those circled numbers, 15, 15, 15, there's a 50, and this is 300. And right now we're at 60. Now I'm not, the reason why I have to check is because I'm not sure exactly what this negative number means. Negative 10, negative 20. This one has negative 100. So I'll double check those. Pretty much standard fare for the rest of it as far as zones of control go. If you enter, if you're the Soviet player and you enter a zone of control, you are in combat and you have to attack. If you're a Finnish force or unit, if you're in the enemy's zone of control, you do not have to attack. You have the option of not attacking. There's also some retreat and advance rules as well too. And the retreat option is for the Finnish players. The advance option is for the Soviets. If the Soviets do advance, they do not get to participate in an attack that round, so it suggests just turning those units upside down so you don't confuse them in the way of attacking them. The other suggestion that they do have is once you have attacked with a unit, just turning it 60 degrees, I guess that is, just so you can mark that you've already done combat with those particular units. A big old, grand old terrain chart here with clear road, railroad, etc., etc. You can move along railroads as many hexes as you want, as long as you, insofar as if there's no enemy units on that railroad. So let's say, for example, you enter the board here, or for some reason you're, or maybe not enter the board here, you're here and you want to travel all the way down to Leningrad. You can, if your way is free and clear, you can make it all the way down there in one shot. It doesn't, you don't have to expend points. The only way you'd have to expend points is if you were on a clear terrain moving onto the railroad. But if there is an enemy unit on that railroad, you can only go as far as them, then you're kind of locked in combat again, or you're stopped, basically. What else could I tell you? As I said, those are the only units that can't pass that line. Every other unit that you have can pass the line. When the reinforcements come, you can place them anywhere on the board. They don't have to start from an edge and move their way in. You can place them anywhere, but as before, you have to place them in supply. They can't, if you have a headquarters here and none here, you can't place them down around here, although I don't know why you would want to, because the front is generally going to be there, I suppose, is where most of the battles are going to happen. There's some impassable ones. These ones here are mountains and you cannot pass through them, you cannot go over them. Entry prohibited, so there's not even it's going to cost you 6 movement points to cross them. You just can't. They're impassable. So basically this whole terrain here is kind of boxed in. These are considered swamp lands. The USSR swamp, the Finns and the Soviets, it costs 2 movement points to enter. In the Finnish swamp lands, it costs the Soviets 2 movement points to enter. The Finns, it only costs them 1. So the Soviets have it rough no matter whose swamplands they're going through. The Finnish units have it a little easier if it's just navigating through their own. I think that's probably kind of a few of the broader strokes of the game. I think it's going to be a good one. I'm probably going to review a couple of things on Callendale's video as well too before I dive right into it. But I think that's a good start. We can deal with anything else as we're kind of going. There is stacking limitations. In any hex that is on or south of row A, as many as 2 friendly units may be placed in a single hex. On any hex north of row A, only 1 friendly unit may be placed in a single hex. So there's the stacking rules. Anything south to anything north is just 1 per hex. You can pass through friendly hexes, but you can't end your turn on your hex. And if you do end your turn on a hex, it doesn't cost you a movement point to move your unit off of it, which is an odd kind of rule. I could see that being kind of taken advantage of to some degree, because then you could advance from there, which basically gives you an extra movement point. The Finnish ski patrol units, which are the 003s, never count against stacking limits and may be stacked freely with other Finnish units anywhere on the map. All 5 ski patrol units may be placed in the same hex if desired. The ski patrol units, I don't quite understand, because they're 0 attack, 0 defense. They just move all over the place. Maybe there's a time when they come in and I just skimmed over it and didn't see it, or it didn't register. But I'll check that out as well. I don't see how those are incredibly helpful. Alright then, so that's good enough for an intro, I think. Let's play Winter War. Okay, just a clarification. So, this positive number is victory points that you will get if you take over those towns or cities. The negative is what the Soviets will lose if you give up, say Leningrad right there. I believe Leningrad is an end of game scenario. If it gets taken over, that's it. It doesn't matter really about the 100-point loss. I believe the Soviets lose. So that means that this number in the circle, this 50, is what I thought. That's the amount of supply available using your attack strength. So just that little clarification there while I've got it on the tip of my tongue. I'm also trying the camera, on another note, I'm also trying my camera on auto mode to see if it focuses in, which it does a little better. So there's the wide that's in focus, and at least I can get kind of close and it's still in focus. Yeah? Yeah. Okay, I'm continuing with my setup here. Okay, so here's what we have done. What the hell do I know about anything? So all the Finnish units I turned upside down, shuffled like hell, and put them where I thought they should go. Because it's Leningrad there, I thought maybe stacking those units that were already there, which, just to remind you, were these 6-6-2, which is 6 attack, 6 defense, 2 movement. Below, south of the A line, we're allowed to stack 2 units. North of the A line, not allowed to stack at all. So my thinking basically was, everywhere there was either a city for them to attack, or, as you can see here, these +5 spots, anywhere there was something to defend, or Ulu, which is 30 points. I kind of fortified it a little bit. This just seemed like another good spot to fortify, and this one here, because of this Murmansk Defense here, after game turn 3 they have to hold it with 7 units. There's 8 there currently, one of them being the headquarters. The 012s are the headquarters. So I figured I'd put a bunch there, because the Finns in turn 2 are going to get a whole bunch of reinforcements. I didn't worry too much about stacking them heavily. I wanted to use those units down here. Now for the Soviet side, headquarters there by Leningrad, I put them a little further away from the front. They have to be, I believe it's 5 spaces away from the city, and I believe 10 spaces away from the units to keep in supply. So again, there's the headquarters. I also wanted to keep them back in case there was a push forward by the Finns. I don't want them to cut off the supply line really yet, or to be able to destroy the headquarters. And there was another headquarters down here, one over here that can still supply these guys right there. This one can kind of supply both, but and actually, come to think of it, I haven't looked at the numbers. I should make sure that I check out these numbers. Where was it? So this is 15. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and then that's 2, 3, 4 left over that can be supplied by this guy, because he's also 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so it does it. It reaches. Now, I think it's through terrain, not, I believe it was Omega Wars where it was just a direct line. It wouldn't matter for supply. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which would make a difference, but it's still within the 10. So I do believe I am okay. And the last headquarters there, like I said, just behind Murmansk there. So kind of surrounded a little bit. Other than that, I mean, I don't know. I'm not some military strategist, so I'm just kind of coming up with what I think is a sufficient strategy. The Soviets only get a reinforcement, or a bunch of reinforcements, in game turn 3. But they do have a big unit there, 2012-2, which has to go south of the A line there. The rest of them can go wherever on the board. Game turn 4, they have some as well, 6, 8, 9, and 10. Now, because we're playing the basic game, we don't have to worry about the special events. And because we're playing the basic game, here you see Norway and Sweden. According to our terrain effects chart, entry is prohibited in the standard game. So we're playing the standard game, so we cannot be on those gray spaces whatsoever, which limits our movement through here, the mountains and these swamplands and stuff. So that'll be an interesting slog through there if they do want to make a push. They're also guarding Petsamo, which is 30 points available for the Soviets. So hopefully that line can just keep pushing in. I don't know my strategy there yet. We'll see. So the next thing will be flipping over the Finnish units. Sorry about that, an odd reading on the card saying the space was full. All I was really saying was that now's the stage where we're going to turn over the Finnish units and see what we're up against, remembering that there's those 5 blank chits in there as well that will then be removed out of the game. I was thinking of doing it while they were under attack, but no, I think I'm going to stick to the rules, which is they say that once everything is deployed, the first thing that happens is the Finns reveal their troops, basically. So I'll flip them all over and we'll come right back. Okay then. So 1 blank there, and then 2 113s. We have a blank there. That 442 is not a bad addition to those 113s. Here, 1 down, and but a few backups. Something not too bad compared to what they're up against, though. Is not spectacular. And this was the kind of biggest shock here. 2 blanks, and then 2 or 3 units at 113 there, which isn't the greatest. Some infantry units there, not the greatest for a pretty major part there. Petsamo, the 30-pointer there. So that's, I think, going to be our kind of first look at some combat in here. I imagine the Soviets, once I sit down and have a look at things more closely, I imagine the Soviets are going to want to go and take that right away and fortify that to make it almost impenetrable. And they're going to have to wait till turn 2 to kind of reinforce that there. There we go. So I'll take the blanks out, stack everything up nicely, and I don't know, I'll come back when there's a battle, or maybe we'll continue this in a part 2 video here. We'll leave it at that.